Released in 1974, Red showcased King Crimson's musical prowess at their finest. But how does he compare to their other influential works? Let's chart Red's impact on the progressive rock landscape and determine its place among King Crimson's most influential albums. By 1974, King Crimson have already gone through several iterations, with frequent lineup changes that often reflected the band's evolving sound. At this time, Red was created during a particularly volatile period for the group, with the lineup consisting of Robert Fripp on guitar, John Wetton on bass and vocals, and Bill Bruford on drums. Now, this trio format followed the departure of violinist David Cross, and it's a change that marked a shift in the band's dynamic. Because without Cross's contributions, the music on Red took on a more raw and more stripped-down quality, which contrasted with the more expansive instrumentation found on earlier albums like Locks, Tongues in Aspic and Starless and Bible Black. Robert Fripp, who had always been the driving force behind King Crimson and remains so to this day, would mentally and creatively preparing for a hiatus from the music world, which made Red feel like a final statement. This sense of closure is palpable throughout the album, as the band pushed their experimentation to new heights, while also distilling their sound into something more concise and powerful. In fact, Fripp would disband King Crimson shortly after Red's release, making it the last studio album of their 1970s phase. This was a period marked by turbulence not just within the band, but also within the progressive rock movement itself. By the mid-1970s, as we know, many of King Crimson's contemporaries in the prog rock scene were beginning to experience creative stagnation or disbanding altogether. With this album, they resisted that trend, though, demonstrating that the genre could still produce groundbreaking work. The album is a masterclass in progressive rock's ability to blend complex musical ideas with raw, visceral energy. It begins with the title track, and this is a 6-minute instrumental that sets the tone for the rest of the album. Red is a heavy driving composition built on a foundation of aggressive guitar riffs and unconventional time signatures. The track was derived from a series of improvisations that the band had developed during live performances. This illustrating King Crimson's unique ability to turn chaotic, unstructured ideas into tightly composed music. The song's relentless rhythm with its shifting meters and powerful guitar lines almost predicts the direction heavy metal and math rock would take years later. Following Red, the album moves into Fallen Angels, a hauntingly beautiful song that contrasts melancholic lyrics with sophisticated arrangements. Here, John Wetton's vocal performance on Fallen Angels stands out, conveying deep emotional resonance that contrasts the more abstract and cerebral elements typical of King Crimson's early work. He really had such a distinguished sounding voice, and it's one that I really love. The song also featured layered brass arrangements which contribute to the rich texture and emotional complexity. One More Red Nightmare, the third track, is where King Crimson's jazz influences come to the fore. Here, Bill Bruford's drumming, it's full of intricate cymbal work and syncopated rhythms, and this drives the song's unusual time signatures. He really was a master at these types of track. Wetton's growling bass and Fripp's angular guitar riffs provide a muscular counterpart to the jazz-inspired percussion, resulting in one of the album's most dynamic tracks. The song's title and lyrics suggest a sense of tension and chaos, fitting in with the themes of unease and transformation that run right throughout Red. The album then transitions into Providence. This is a live improvisation that harkens back to the more experimental avant-garde elements of King Crimson's earlier albums, like Locks, Tongues in Aspic. This was recorded during a live performance in Providence in Rhode Island. The track is a completely unstructured piece of music that feels spontaneous and unpredictable. What it does, though, is highlight the band's improvisational skills and adds an element of raw, experimental chaos to this album. Red concludes with Starless, a nearly 12-minute epic that many consider one of King Crimson's crowning achievements. The song was originally developed during the sessions for Starless and Bible Black, but was reworked and expanded for Red. It began with a slow, melancholic vocal section that built an intensity before giving way to a lengthy instrumental passage driven by Fripp's menacing guitar riff. The song's structure, starting off slow, building tension, finally exploding in a climatic instrumental section. And this made Starless a fitting conclusion. Now, upon its release, Red received some mixed reviews. Some critics were unsure of how to interpret King Crimson's sudden shift in sound and lineup, and found the album challenging. Steve Peacock, writing for Sounds, questioned whether the band's impending breakup was simply a marketing ploy or a genuine artistic decision. In commercial terms, Red fared reasonably well, peaking at 45 on the UK albums chart and 66 in the US, but it wasn't an immediate blockbuster by any means. However, as time has passed, Red's reputation has grown significantly, and retrospective reviews have been overwhelmingly positive, with many fans and critics hailing it as one of King Crimson's finest work. Robert Christgau of The Village Voice later described the album as a record of overwhelming power and invention. It's now frequently cited as a major influence on a variety of genres, including progressive metal, math rock, and post-rock. Red has also been highlighted as a critical moment in progressive rock's evolution. At a time when the genre was seen as bloated or self-indulgent by some listeners, King Crimson managed to create an album that was both experimental and concise, blending technical prowess with emotional depth. Now, when considering how Red stands up against other King Crimson albums, it is important to recognise its distinctiveness. In the Court of the Crimson King in 1969 is often seen as the band's magnus opus, that lush, symphonic album that laid the foundation for the entire progressive rock movement. With its sprawling compositions including 21st Century Schizoid Man and Epitaph, we were steeped in grandiose arrangements and poetic lyrics, and this defined King Crimson's early sound. Now, their albums like Lark's Tongue in Aspic from 1973 and Starless and Bible Black from 1974 represented a move towards a more experimental, improvisational heavy sound, incorporating influences from jazz, avant-garde and world music. These records were marked by their eclectic instrumentation, really featuring everything from electric violin to exotic percussion instruments. But in contrast, Red feels more stripped down and aggressive. The departure of Cross and the move to a power trio configuration gave the music a tighter, more focused sound. While earlier albums revelled in the intricacies of the arrangements, Red feels immediate and intuitive, with Fripp's guitar at the forefront. Yet despite its raw energy, Red retains the complexity and ambition that defined the band's previous work, making it a compelling hybrid of their various phases. The album not only cemented King Crimson's legacy, but also significantly influenced the broader progressive rock genre. Bands like Tool, Opeth and Porcupine Tree have all cited Red as a major influence, particularly its blending of heavy guitar-driven riffs with complex time signatures and experimental structures. The album's ability to balance technical prowess with emotional intensity helped redefine what progressive rock could be, encouraging subsequent generations of musicians to push the boundaries of their own genres. In addition, Red has been recognised as a precursor of the emerging genres of math rock and progressive metal. Its heavy use of odd time signatures, dissonant chord structures and abrupt dynamic shifts would later be adopted by bands looking to create music that was both challenging and accessible. And in this way, Red remains a vital touchstone for musicians who seek to innovate within the rock genre. Now, after analysing the musical complexity, historical content, I can definitively address how it compares to King Crimson's other seminal works. While In the Court of Crimson King is hailed as the band's most iconic and genre-defining album, Red stands out for different reasons, and in many ways it represents the apex of King Crimson's raw power and emotional depth. In marked a departure from the symphonic and experimental textures that defined earlier albums, the trio format gave the album more direct, concentrated energy and made it less sprawling but more intense. The tightness of this album makes Red unique within King Crimson's catalogue. It's both accessible and challenging. It balances the technical musicianship with visceral impact. Ultimately, Red stands up remarkably well against King Crimson's other works, offering a focused, powerful expression of the band's capabilities at a time when they were at a creative crossroads. Now, while each of King Crimson's albums offers something unique, whether it's symphonic elegance, the avant-garde experimentation, Red can be viewed as the culmination of their journey, where the band successfully blended their progressive rock roots with that more direct, emotionally charged energy. For many fans and critics, this album represented the pinnacle of King Crimson's output in terms of sheer intensity and musical innovation. Let me know your favourite track from this album in the comments below, or do you think there are better King Crimson albums? Tell me in the comments. Now, I shot a video about another of their classic albums right here, and that's the one I want you to watch next. I'll see you over there.